Welcome, traveler, to the quiet hours of the night. Close your eyes, let the weight of the day fade away, and let your mind drift into the mist-shrouded valleys of old Europe. Tonight, we journey to a place where time stands still, and the veil between the living and the forgotten grows thin. Listen closely to the gentle rhythm of the rain, breathe in the cool air, and let yourself fall into the haunting mystery of the whispering manor. Deep within the fog-laden hills of the Scottish Highlands, surrounded by ancient, gnarled oak trees, stood Blackwood Manor. For centuries, its stone walls had weathered the fiercest storms, holding secrets that the village below only dared to whisper about. It was a place of Gothic beauty, with towering spires, ivy-clad windows, and a silence so profound it felt alive. To this lonely estate arrived Eleanor, a young archivist hired to catalog the manor's massive, dust-covered library. She sought solitude, a quiet escape from the chaotic world, and Blackwood seemed perfect. The villagers had warned her, speaking of a soft, sorrowful melody that echoed through the halls at midnight, but Eleanor only smiled, dismissing their fears as mere folklore. On her first evening, the manor welcomed her with the comforting crackle of a grand fireplace in the study. The air smelled of old parchment, beeswax, and sweet lavender. Outside, a gentle, rhythmic rain tapped against the leaded glass windows, acting as a hypnotic lullaby. Eleanor sat at a heavy mahogany desk, carefully brushing dust from leather-bound journals that hadn't been opened in over a century. The atmosphere was peaceful, almost therapeutic. As the grandfather clock in the corner ticked slowly, its steady rhythm resonated like a calm, beating heart, easing her into a state of deep relaxation. But as the hands of the clock crawled toward midnight, the air in the room grew noticeably cooler. The crackling fire dimmed into a soft, amber glow, casting long, lazy shadows across the floorboards. Eleanor paused, her pen hovering over the paper. The steady ticking of the clock seemed to slow down, stretching the seconds into eternity. Then, from the grand corridor outside, a sound drifted through the heavy oak door. It was faint, almost imperceptible at first, the delicate, tinny chime of a vintage music box. The melody was sweet, a melancholy lullaby that felt strangely familiar, wrapping around the quiet halls like a velvet shroud. Driven by a gentle curiosity rather than fear, Eleanor stood up and opened the door. The corridor was bathed in the ethereal, silver light of a full moon filtering through the high, arched windows. The mist from the gardens outside seemed to press against the glass, creating a dreamy, isolated world. She followed the music, her footsteps making no sound on the thick Persian rugs. The melody led her down the winding grand staircase, past portraits of long-forgotten ancestors whose painted eyes seemed to watch her with an expression of quiet longing rather than malice. The music grew clearer as she approached the conservatory, a beautiful room made entirely of glass and iron, filled with sleeping white roses and overgrown ferns. In the center of the room, sitting on a vintage velvet settee, was a figure. Eleanor stopped, her breath catching softly. It was a young girl, no older than 10, wearing a classic Victorian lace dress that glowed with a faint, pearlescent light. The girl had soft, delicate features, and her hair fell in gentle curls around her shoulders. She was completely translucent, a spirit woven from moonlight and memory. Between her small hands, she held a tarnished silver music box, the source of the enchanting lullaby. The ghost child did not look terrifying. Instead, her eyes held a profound, innocent sadness. She slowly turned her head toward Eleanor, her gaze warm and pleading. She didn't speak, but inside Eleanor's mind, a soft voice echoed, gentle as a sighing wind. The spirit whispered of a lost promise, of a token of love hidden away beneath the floorboards of the old nursery upstairs, a token that kept her soul bound to the earthly realm, waiting for someone to find it and bring her peace. Eleanor felt a deep wave of empathy wash over her. The fear that usually accompanied the supernatural was entirely absent, replaced by a soothing, protective instinct. She nodded softly to the young spirit, a silent vow to help. Guided by the faint, glowing footprints the child left behind, Eleanor climbed the stairs to the forgotten nursery. The room was frozen in time, filled with wooden rocking horses and dusty porcelain dolls. Following her intuition, Eleanor knelt near the window, lifting a loose wooden plank. Beneath it lay a beautiful, velvet-lined box containing a golden locket with a picture of a smiling mother and her child. When Eleanor brought the locket back to the conservatory, the little ghost girl smiled, a radiant expression that seemed to illuminate the entire glass room. As Eleanor gently placed the locket beside the music box, the sorrowful melody transformed into a bright, joyful tune. The spirit began to fade, dissolving into thousands of tiny, glowing golden particles that danced in the air like fireflies before drifting out into the midnight sky. The heavy, centuries-old sadness of Blackwood Manor lifted instantly, leaving behind a profound sense of warmth and tranquility. Eleanor returned to her desk, the grandfather clock resuming its steady, comforting tick. The rain outside stopped, giving way to a clear, star-filled night. She felt a deep, overwhelming peacefulness settle over her soul, a comforting reassurance that some spirits only seek a gentle hand to guide them home. As our story comes to a close, let the peace of Blackwood Manor envelop you. The spirits are at rest, the night is safe, and the world is quiet. Let your eyelids grow heavy, breathe in deeply, and allow yourself to drift into a deep, serene sleep. Good night, traveler, and sweet dreams.